off, I wanted to get into some of these scrimmages that we've seen because now I think all three of the big three have kind of played, and some other prospects have balled out as well, or I guess played. But yeah, yesterday I'll kind of start with Darren Peterson because I'm the Kansas guy. But yesterday we saw Darren Peterson for the first time in a college setting. They were playing against Louisville, which also featured Mikal Brown, who is one of the top guards in this class, without a doubt. But he didn't have a great showing, but Darren Peterson did. Um, and yeah, I just wanted to get your guys' initial reactions to what you might have seen. I don't know how much y'all saw, even if it was just the highlights.
It's like it's a weird mix of like fluidity and like athleticism with him. Like he would like just watching him move, he just didn't like move like anyone else on the court. Like there was definitely like you could just it looked like somebody dropped the NBA guard in a college game.
Yeah, I mean, whether it was the numerous 3-point shots that he hit from either deep or hella contested, that was super impressive. Like Cam said, his movement around the court coming off screens looked really quick and explosive. And I mean, from what we saw in this scrimmage against a team that's probably going to be pretty good this year, he looks like maybe the most dynamic 3-level scorer in the country among the freshmen. I didn't think I'd be more impressed by anyone from after AJ Dybantsa put up 30 against Nebraska. And then we got huge performance from Cam Boozer, and then Darren Peterson looked unbelievable for Kansas. So I'm ecstatic right now.
Yeah, I think the crazy thing about Peterson's performance is I feel like he didn't even really showcase what makes him so unique because, they were blitzing him. He was seeing doubles. He couldn't really drive that whole game, but he was like, okay, y'all are going to let me cook from the perimeter. And like 3-point shooting is something he had, but if you told me the first game he was going to come out and have like 9 3-point attempts and 6 threes in the first half, I like that wouldn't have been the first thing I would have thought. But yeah, he's going to let it fly and he can really shoot, but I still feel like there's a lot more to kind of be shown off with him. And that offensively, we know what we're going to get out of him, but I think defensively too, there was also a lot to like because obviously it's Bill Self's team. Like he's always going to have a physical defensive team, and I think he really bought in on that side of the floor too. Like there were some backdoor cuts he got beat on early, but he adjusted and he just stayed glued to cutters and people coming off screens. I feel like there were 1 or 2 turnovers he had where he wasn't even looking at the ball, but just because he was so attached to his man, he was able to get the deflection and make things hard. So yeah, I think on both sides of the ball, there's a lot to be excited about with him. And then on the other side of that, for Louisville, we had Mikal Brown, who it didn't really look great. I'm not gonna lie. For him, he's a great, shooter, scorer, but I think a lot of that is also. I'm kind of curious what it's gonna look like when he can't shoot the ball well, and we saw yesterday that kind of take place. But for him, a big question with him is getting downhill, being able to finish in traffic, things like that. And, he was getting some drives yesterday, but even when he did get downhill, it wasn't pretty. And you could tell that the strength was kind of bothering him. He couldn't get to his spots. Even when he did get to the cup, he couldn't stay balanced long enough to like really make a pass or a read out of it. So for him, I'm really hoping that obviously it's the first game, but I'm hoping that things look better as the season goes on. I'm not trying to overreact because it's also his first game and he was playing a physical team. But on that side of the ball, it just really didn't look good.
Yeah, he struggled to really close out the rim. That's kind of been the story with him, like throughout his career. Like for as good as he can shoot, getting to the rim has always kind of been like a mixed bag, just because he's been smaller, and even now that he's like a taller player, he's still like filling out. So he's kind of struggling to finish through contact at the moment. I think that really showed up in the Kansas game. I think also the way Kansas is built, where they don't really have like a true point guard, they have like a bunch of hybrid guard wing type players that are like a little taller, a little more physical. Like that really bothered him, just because he wasn't like necessarily at an athletic advantage. And when his shot wasn't falling, he really couldn't get anything going. And then when he got downhill, like Floyd Badunga, guys like that down low, just kind of forced him to alter shots, and he wasn't strong enough to finish through yet. Also, like you said, I don't want to overreact. It's just a scrimmage. To be honest, like this isn't even like an actual game yet. Some guys like take a little bit longer to get going. For him, I think it's gonna. His teammates are gonna have to free him up a little bit more on offense. I would like to see him like maybe get into a rhythm off ball first, like get some catch and shoot opportunities, and then start to try to get for himself.
Yeah,
Yeah, especially
I agree.
I mean, like Mikal Brown Jr., he's got one of the best releases in the entire freshman class. I mean, that when he did make that perimeter shot, like it looked really, really good. So I think more catch and shoot opportunities is a good point to get him comfortable, get him making shots, and then once he's in that rhythm, that's when we'll see that dynamic ball handling and the perimeter playmaking.
Yeah, it felt like yesterday he just had to force so much, and I think when there were like one or two in rhythm shots where like it looked a lot better, but yeah, I think again you can't overreact to the first game, or you shouldn't overreact. It's really not even the first game; it's just a scrimmage exhibition. But I think a lot of the flaws that he has were kind of on full display. So he's somebody I'm still high on, but like definitely want to monitor that throughout the year. But yeah, so we talked about that game, but I think AJ Dybantsa was one that all three of us were kind of locked in on. At least I don't think we talked about the Nebraska game yet. Jake, I know you had your short, but Cameron, I know, was actually at the game, and it was a fun, even though BYU lost. I still think there was a lot that AJ showed and why he's kind of in this top three category. From the shooting, the downhill drives, defense. I know people on Twitter were kind of having their qualms with it, but I thought that he showed some promise on that side of the ball as well. What did you guys like from that Nebraska scrimmage against BYU?
He just looked like a totally different level of athlete than what Nebraska was really able to put out there. Like he could kind of get downhill whenever he wanted to. His shot looked really good. It's a little flat. I noticed, like, I think that comes from, if you look at his release, sometimes he can push more out than up. So that's something that I'm interested to see how it gets like tweaked and ironed out moving forward. But he made shots in the actual game against Nebraska. He defended well with me on ball. He like really showed some like really good flexibility and bend. And like his screen navigation was kind of a mixed bag. He was like extremely like flexible and able to get around some screens, and some screens he would just kind of die on. Overall, he played like really great. Like he had 30 points, and I kind of wanted like BYU to get him the ball more. Rob Wright didn't really play in the second half, so he kind of initiated the offense in the half, and that didn't look as great, but just the flashes he showed, like it was very impressive.
Yeah, I think one of the more impressive parts from what we saw from him against Nebraska was his ability to realize when he had the advantage and instantly know what to do with it and make a positive play offensively. Like you think about matchups where he had the size advantage, he didn't, just stick with the system and just chuck it back out to set up a play. Like he noticed that he had 4 or 5 inches in height advantage on a guy like Connor Essegian and then just blew by him and powered to the rim. That's what you want to see from a wing who's playing on the perimeter. He can make plays out there, but he can also get to the rim very quick. I mean, there was times where he had one dribble and then he was literally right at the cup. So that I think was the most important and impressive aspect of his performance.
Yeah, I think, and I watched some of the North Carolina scrimmage, and I really liked how he's not being a settler. Like he's really taking advantage of the size difference that he has on some of the drives, and I think as a ball handler, Cameron kind of, but I think, I blanked. But I think as a ball handler, he still kind of has some room to grow for sure. But I think in the game against North Carolina, it looked a lot more fluid. And I think the one thing I want to see him kind of get better at is just making that extra pass. when he does get downhill and he doesn't have anywhere else to go. I think there's a lot to like about AJ. And I think in that Nebraska scrimmage, he wasn't settling for jumpers. He was getting downhill. Like the length that he has, he knows how to utilize it. Really, really good stuff from AJ. And I don't know if you guys saw Caleb Wilson at all yesterday as well for BYU, but I only watched the first half of that game. So I think he exploded a lot in the second half, but he looked very fluid defensively. I mean, like we all kind of knew the athleticism that he has and he can just fly around, but he was really mucking things up. And it seems like offensively too, like Hubert is kind of going to let him rock out a little bit and not try to hide parts of his game, which is something I think was a big question coming into the season. And like he was bringing the ball up the court. Caleb is somebody who the first chance I get, I'm not going to lie, I'm going to try and put him in my top 5. Like he is somebody who I think he has a very high ceiling, but he just has to be utilized the right way. And I think the tools that he has, it's not going to be hard for him to come in and have a high floor in the NBA as well. So anyways, you guys can give your thoughts on Caleb Wilson, but he's somebody I'm very, very optimistic about.
He's somebody I'm kind of like with you. Like, I have him really high on my board. I think the only thing stopping me from like his situation, and like also want to see how the shot comes around. Like there's been like hints of him like actually improving it a lot. Didn't necessarily show up that great in the BYU game. Like he had a couple tough misses, but he was able to really get to the rack. He was versatile on defense. That's also something I noticed about AJ in the Nebraska game. He guarded wings and guards really well, but he also was able to hold his own when Bass tried to post him up. So I think they're kind of similar in that way that they can guard a bunch of positions. I think Caleb is just a little bit more advanced on ball and off ball. On that side of the floor, Caleb really like mucks things up. He uses his length to really dissuade people from taking shots sometimes. Like he's a really high level defensive prospect for me. And I think the more he can provide on offense, the higher and higher he'll soar up on.
Okay. And Cameron Boozer also played on Tuesday, I believe, during the first of the NBA games. I unfortunately was not able to see his game because I think it was on like ACC Network Extra. So, and you have to have like that special ESPN plan. So I didn't watch it, but do you guys have any thoughts about that? I know he plays tomorrow as well, so we'll get to see more of him again. But
really hard to stop in like the college level. I think what he showed is like against teams that don't have like a really big like physical center, I think like they're gonna really struggle. And if you put a 4 on him, like a college level 4, just you can kind of wrap it up. Like he dominated with just like his physicality, and then he also like showed all the things that make him like as highly touted. Like he can really shoot the ball. It's slow, so like it's something that I think eventually is gonna have to be sped up. But he was able to get to it and kind of shoot it with a good amount of range in that game. He had a really nasty like reverse dunk over someone that was like. Those are the type of things that's like a lot of people say like people get bored of him because he kind of just does all the little things right all the time. If he can have more plays like that, I think people start to like change that narrative on him. Like I think he's actually like has the potential to be really exciting at times. I just think the different roles he's played at different spots in his career kind of like why would he need to be when he could just kind of do what he does and dominate the game at the high school level.
Yeah, and I think we've seen already, like just in that first game, he's going to attract so much attention too. Like, I think he's already got kind of a dangerous team around him, but I think it's only going to make everybody else around him so much more impactful just because of the gravity that he's going to attract. And I think he's a player who like he does just about everything Like I think he could have another Cooper Flag type season and just elevate that team, and they go on another deep run in the tournament. Like I think I am kind of getting to the point where I feel like Boozer could just be a player night in, night out. Like maybe it's not the most flashy, but you look at the numbers, you go and like watch the possessions, like he's just doing extremely efficient things out there, completely elevating the ceiling of the Duke squad. Like like I didn't see the full game, but kind of like watching those highlights, it did make me kind of think like I don't know if he'll go number one still, but I'm like, it's not as wide of a gap between, Darren and AJ and Boozer as I thought it was coming into the, first of these scrimmages. So yeah, I'm excited to monitor that race for the rest of the year.
Yeah, I feel like I remember when we ranked the 3 prospects, I think the only one to put Boozer at 1, and we all kind of had almost different but somewhat similar top 3 orders going into the preseason. But I really do feel like this year, if these guys are able to continue this level of play that we've seen from these scrimmages, this might be one of the best big 3s that we've seen in the last decade. I mean, I'm thinking back to maybe like 2021 when Cade Cunningham and Evan Mobley and Jalen Green were in there. But I have a feeling that at least one of these guys could have a better career than what we've seen from Jalen Green so far. And I think, already seeing the similarities from a Darren Peterson to Cade Cunningham, and you've got another big man inside like Cam Boozer who could be just as good as an Evan Mobley. Like, we legitimately might be looking at one of the best top 3 freshmen in college or going to the NBA next year in a long time.
I know this could age very poorly, but I feel like seeing all 3 of these guys in action and like just what they project as, it's really hard for me to see them not reaching their capabilities. Like with Jalen Green, that whole situation was different because coming into that draft, he really didn't have much tape. Like he had the G League stuff in like high school, but it was a situation where, he played however many 8 games before that year. But this is like, I think they don't have the tools that Jalen has. Like, sure, he had that insane athleticism, but like these guys all have, outside of maybe Darren, but like these guys all have the processing, the size or tools to kind of make up for it that I don't think a guy like Jalen, not to bash on Jalen Green, but I really do just feel like this is such a good group of guys that they're going to come in and hit. And I just, it's hard for me to, obviously this can age bad, but it's hard for me to see any of these guys really being busts.
These guys are like, they're really, really good already. And it's like, in the things they keep adding to their games, it's kind of like what a lot of people said about Cooper last year, how you could just keep seeing his game like evolve. I think all 3 of these guys have kind of had varying levels of that. I think all 3 of these guys are like really, really good. And I just can't really see them busting at the moment. However, something like I'm struggling with currently, I have like a ton of players that are like I have projected as like lottery talents, and there's only 15 spots. Like this freshman class in general is really, really talented, and so far they all look to be performing to like really, really high levels in the scrimmages that have happened so far.
Yeah, I don't know if you watched it, Cameron, but I saw some of the Arkansas guys too. They hooped out, and Acuff Thomas. Yeah, and like even outside of like, I have a lot of guys too who I feel like might not even get drafted. Like even when watching the KU game, like Bryson Tiller really jumped out at me. And I think for our front court, he's going to be huge, but there's just so many guys who it's like I really see the vision, even if they don't go this year. Like Rob Wright too is another guy who, like, again, he might not go out this year, but I can see him once he gets to the NBA. I feel like he's just going to put it together and be a really impactful guard. Yeah. And there's still other, mind you, there's still a lot of other people who haven't even played yet. So this class is, I feel like a lot of people have been kind of bashing it outside of the top 3, but I feel like this is a really deep class again.
It's kind of brutal to think about. The Brooklyn Nets just took 5 first-round picks in last year's draft. And just thinking about if a team had 5 first-round picks in this 2026 draft, I legitimately think they could be walking away with multiple All-Stars in the future.
Yeah, there's like guys like you said, both the Arkansas guys really, really impressed last night. Sean Abayev played really good in their first scrimmage. Jasper Johnson played good in their scrimmage last night. Like, there's guys that I think a lot of people are expecting to come back that, like, I'm just not ready to book as returns yet. But there's only 30 spots, and there's, like, so many kids that are really performing at a high level right now. Obviously, when you get into conference play and the competition ratchets up a little bit, I think some of these guys kind of hit a freshman wall a little bit, slow down. But currently, there's a lot of freshmen not really like so far.